My name's Michael Conneely, and this video is about Swati Nakshatra, the 15th Nakshatra in the wonderful Vedic lunar zodiac, the 27 lunar signs, the 27 Nakshatras. And I do teach a course on the Nakshatras. It's so well worth getting to know about the Nakshatras. If you have a planet in a nakshatra, what you can tell about your emotional self and your destiny and how to work with it and what sort of things you'll have to work with is so worthwhile. So I have this nakshatra course that's worldwide, and the course focuses on the charts of two people, yours and mine, and that way we do make it very authentic sharing, because it's the lives of two flesh and blood people. We can check out, does this seem genuine? So, Swati. Well, the first thing that strikes me about Swati is, well, their power animal is the buffalo, the male buffalo, and that's very powerful. And it means they can be prone to overrunning. But they're much more sensitive and fragile than other people think. And in fact, they're much more sensitive and fragile than they think. And they're very much prone to mental scatter. And so, you get the impression of an overrunning person who can tend to scatter too much and be nervy. That's maybe an overall impression. But let's look at some characteristics. So a brief description is someone who is musical, artistic, creative, intuitive and psychic. Now, they definitely have good business and financial skills, and they're good communicators. They're good learners, they're knowledgeable, they're curious and very flexible. But they're very vulnerable. And I think myself they can get prone to sort of catastrophize. Although they do have survival instincts in the middle of all their sort of dashing about and possible restlessness and flight. In a bit more detail, these people are eager to learn, very eager to learn, restless, sensitive and doing business, and they're very independent, which can work to their disadvantage because they're always sort of worrying, am I being independent enough, and trying to see both sides of things, and it can make for a very difficult decision making, a very difficult definition of strategy in life. And they're certainly very much the trader. They can see, when they're doing a deal, what the other person wants, and thus convince the other person they have exactly the package for them. And so they're good salespeople. So, favourably, Swatis are gentle. They think of other needs. They think before acting. There's a saying that they're much more intelligent than they appear. And they are friendly with positive expectations. And they definitely are friendly on the whole, and they seek harmony in all things. And here we come to it. They're quite often active in spiritual organisations or humanitarian causes. They like to be around holy or spiritual people. They're interested in scientific, philosophical or occult thought. But on the downside, or the unfavourable characteristics, well, they can be self-isolating. They can be secretive about their true self and thus not fully embody or manifest their passionate nature and their sexual urges. And their creative thinking can become so far thrown, as it were, that it could even be, verging into the preposterous on occasion. And the other big thing about Swatis is that being so sensitive and fragile, they bend with the winds. So they try and adjust to different situations, often nervously so. And some people say that because of this bending with the wind, their actual moral standard isn't high. And some people say they'll even adopt the position that seems most profitable to them. So they could be a bit morally cynical rather than take a moral stand. And basically, philosophies and religious ideas play a most important role with Swatis. So this will particularly apply, obviously, if you have a planet in Swati. And what they're doing, they're trying to find rest and certainty. But the difficulty is that because of their adaptability and their mentalism, they can actually quite possibly, flit from spiritual insight from spiritual model to spiritual model, and thus never find the rest and certainty. So they do well, really, to to give themselves priorities in spiritual practice. Try not to flit around too much. And the temperament of Swati is Deva. So they're angelic people, loving and accommodating. And, I think one feels this. I think so often you feel you can trust a Swati to be kind to you. Now, the special shakti of Swati is scattering. Now, scattering sounds like, oh, that would drive me mad. But the thing is, it has a higher form, and that is scattering wisdom, scattering spiritual teaching. And that is the highest form of Swati. Studying, initiating spiritual ideas, and scattering them to the many. That is their highest form, in my opinion. Now, Swati's spiritual path is therefore a philosophy or spiritual form that gives them some security, and that's what they're looking for. Now, just to conclude, Swati, like every nakshatra, is divided into 4 padas, or quarters, and this system does really work. And with every nakshatra, each pada is ruled by the energy of a different sign. So the padas in Swati are Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius and Pisces. So Sagittarius pada, if you have planets there, you'll be very attuned to spiritual search. Capricorn pada, so if your planet is there, well, if it's Jupiter, because Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, clearly Jupiter won't manifest well. And so you'll need to structure and strategize your expansion. Otherwise, you might become very disheartened and not manifest your expansion. Mars, of course, gains in a Saturn-ruled pada, Capricorn. And so Mars can take on, at his best, the quality of Hanuman, devotion and courage. The third pada is Aquarius, which is very good if you have Saturn or Rahu there. And the fourth pada is Pisces. And this is odd in a way because the energy of Pisces is sensitivity and merger, and that mixes ill with the vayu or wind or scatter quality of Swati. And this is one of the Pushkara Padas. Certain Padas have a Pushkara quality, which in my opinion is like Chiron. It's like an existential wound. And in the healing of that wound, the person will actually become very successful if they have a planet in a Pushkara Pada. So the weird challenge of the Pisces fourth Pada of Swati is that they're very good at Mercury qualities and analysis, but in the intuitive connection of Pisces, their Mercury won't work. They can be quite torn and ambivalent between, should I be conceptualizing or should I be going for intuitive merger and guidance? So have a look at my Nakshatra course website, www.nakshatraadvancecourse.com. It's well worth studying with me. In part 1 we go through all the nakshatras. In part 2 we study the interpretation technique using nakshatras, and believe me, for health and relationships there's real gold here. So I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.